Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, third and final session looking at the return from Parnassus, part 2, or the Scourge of Simony, the third Parnassus play of the sequence, and the longest. We have reached Act 4, Scene 2. Yes, we've dipped into Act 4 just to sort of get a sense of where we're at, and it seems like we're sort of in the senior common room at the moment. We've got an awful lot of random people wandering on, doing some business, but not quite got to a sense of action yet, as the scene continues effectively into where we're starting today. To complete our look at the Parnassus plays, reading Ingenioso and Burbage today is...
Hi, I'm Greg. Burbage, interesting man.
Reading Furor, Recorder, and Jack Fiddler today is...
Hi, I'm Eric. Today has been a day. I'm here. I'm alive.
Good. It helps keep things moving. Sir Roderick's page, Amoretto, Kempe, and Academico will be read by...
Hello, Lynsey Beauchamp, actor in Kirkcaldy.
Reading Sir Raderick himself, and Philomusus is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, jack of all trades, master of sod all in London.
Reading Studioso today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor on the coastest with the mostest.
Reading Amoretto's page and Phantasma today is...
Lois Potter. He keeps giving me all the Latin, so Ave, everyone.
Random chance. I'd love to say that was deliberate. Just pure. To be fair, Stephen got all the Latin yesterday, so it's... Swings and roundabouts. Anyway, so I'd say to sort of set up the scene, we've got various people on stage already. We've got Furor, Phantasma, Sir Raderick, Amoretto, Recorder, etc., and Ingenioso, etc., entering onto this scene. We've got pages on stage cleaning out pipes. We've got people doing what we might call bants, in the sense that it's not really funny and some of it's quite unpleasant, but they're unpleasant characters, so it's allowed to be, and that's sort of where we are. Onto this scene, Ingenioso now enters along with some people, and we'll see how the scene flows.
I'll pawn my wits, that is, my revenues, my land, my money, and whatsoever I have. Well, I have nothing but my wit. They are at hand. Why, any sensible snout may wind out Meister Amoretto and his commander, Meister Recorder and his 2 neat feet that wear no socks, Sir Raderick by his rammish complexion, Oled Gorgoius Hycrum, St. Lupus in Fabula. Furor, fire the torch box of your wit. Phantasma, let your invention play tricks like an ape. Begin thou, Furor, and open like a flap-mouthed hound. Follow thou, Phantasma, like a lady's puppy. And as for me, oh, let me alone. I'll come after like a good water dog that will shake them off when I have no use for them. My masters, the watchword is given. Furor discharge.
The great projector of the thunderbolts, he that is wont to piss whole clouds of rain into the earth vast gaping urinal, which that one-eyed subsicer of the sky, Don Phoebus, empties by callidity. He and his townsmen planets bring to thee most fatty lumps of earth's felicity.
Why will this fellow break the queen's peace? I will not seem to regard him.
Maecenas atavis edite regibus, o et praesidium et dulce decus meum, di faciant votis vela secunda tuis.
Oh, God save you, good Master Recorder, and good fortunes follow your deserts. I think I have cursed him sufficiently in few words.
What have we here? 3 begging soldiers? Come you from Ostend or from Ireland?
Cuium pecus and malibe? I have vented all the Latin one man had.
Ovid dicam amplius, domini simulus os. Oh, let him alone, I pray thee. To him again, tickle him there. Quam dispari domino dominaris.
Eric.
I wasn't sure if I was the recorder. Sorry about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of clashing in the scene. Just run with it. Run with it.
Nay, that's plain in Littleton for if that fee simple and the fee tail be put together, it's called hodgepodge. Now, this word hodgepodge in English is a pudding. For in such a pudding is not commonly one thing only, but one thing with another.
I think I do remember this also at a mooting in our temple. So then this hodgepodge seems a term of similitude.
Great Capricornus, of thy head take keep. Good Virgo, watch while thy worship sleep. And when thy swelling bladder vents amain, then Pisces be thy sporting chamberlain.
I think the devil hath sent some of his family to torment me.
There is tail general and tail special, and Littleton is very copious in that theme. For tail general is when lands are given to a man and his heirs of his body begotten. Tail special is when lands are given to a man and to his wife and to the heirs of their 2 bodies lawfully begotten. And that is called tail special.
Very well, and for his oath I will give a distinction. There is a material oath and a formal oath. The formal oath may be broken, the material may not be broken. For, mark you, sir, the law is to take place before the conscience, and therefore you may, using me, your counsellor, cast him in the suit. There wants nothing to the full meaning of this place.
Nihil hic nisi carmina desunt.
An excellent observation in good faith. See how the old fox teacheth the young cub to worry a sheep, or rather sits himself like an old goose hatching the adult brain of Master Amoretto. There is no fool to the satin fool, the velvet fool, the perfumed fool, and therefore the witty tailors of this age put them under a colour of kindliness into a pair of cloth bags, breeches, and so the fools are taken away in a cloak bag, where a voider will not serve the turn. And there is no knave to the barbarous knave, the mooting knave, the pleading knave. Oh, what ho, Master Recorder, Master Novenant Universe per presentes. Not a word he, unless he feel it in his fist.
Mitto tibi metulas cancros imitare legendo.
Fellow, what art thou that art so bold?
I am the bastard of great Mercury, got on Thalia when she was asleep. My gaudy grandsire, O great Apollo high, born was I here, but that my luck was ill to old land upon the forked hill.
O crudelis Alexi, nil mea carmina curas, nil nostre miserere mori me deinque coges.
If you use them thus, my master is a justice of peace and will send you all to the gallows.
E mihi quod domino noli catere tuo.
Oh, good Master Recorder, let me retain you this term for my cause, good Master Recorder.
I am retained already on the contrary part. I've taken my fee. Begone, begone.
Oh, it is meaning I should come off. Oh, why, here is the true style of a villain, the true faith of a lawyer. It is usual with them to be bribed on the one side and then to take a fee on the other. To plead weakly and to be bribed and re-bribed on the one side, then to be feed and re-feed on the other, till at length, per verios casos, by putting the case so often that they make their client so lank that they may case them up in a comb case and pack them home from the term as though he had travelled to London to sell his horse only, and having lost their fleeces, live afterward like poor shorn sheep.
The gods above that know great Furor's fame, and do adore grand poet Furor's name, granted long since at heaven's high parliament that whoso Furor shall immortalize, no yawning goblins shall frequent his grave, nor any bold, presumptuous cur shall dare to lift his leg against his sacred dust. Where'er I leave my rhymes, thence vermin fly all, sailing that foul-faced vermin poverty. This sucks the eggs of my invention, evacuates my wit's full pigeon house. Now may it please thy generous dignity to take this vermin napping as he lies in the true trap of liberality. He caused the Pleiads to give thee thanks. He write thy name within the 16th sphere. He make the Antarctic pole to kiss thy toe, and Scintilia to do homage to thy tail.
Precious coals, thou a man of worship and justice too? It's even so, he's either a madman or a conjurer. It were well if his words were examined to see if they be the queen's friends or no.
Nunc sinos nos audis ut quias divinus Apollo, dic mihi qui numos non habet unde petat.
I'm still haunted with these needy Latinists, fellow. The best counsel I can give is to be gone.
Quod peto Dacae, non peto consilium.
Fellow, look to your brains. You are mad. You are mad.
Semel insanimibus omnes.
Master Recorder, is it not a shame that a gallant cannot walk the street for these needy fellows, and that after there is a statute come out against begging?
And he strikes his breast.
Pectora percussit, pectus quoque robora fiunt.
I warrant you there's some needy graduates. The university breaks wind twice a year, and let's fly such as these are.
And while we managed to get a laugh, which seems like an excellent point to pause in a scene which is deliberately obtuse. The game is, and it was expounded on last time, that these people are basically going to annoy to death these people in exchange for coin. I think the plan was they would start off saying nice things and try and encourage patronage, and then slowly move in the general direction of scurrilousness and libel, and see what they can get out of them. We've already established also that the recorder and Sir Raderick are really not keen on students, and we got a really nice line to pause on there. There is a little more invective to come. It's quite a difficult place to jump in on. But even then, I think even in context, it's a little opaque. Some of this, I mean, to be fair, some people are just talking Latin, so that doesn't help. Thoughts in the room, Lois?
I think it's about jargon of all kinds, though, because it's not just that Furor is going in this grandiloquent style, Phantasma speaking Latin, and Ingenioso is doing a rather elaborate request for money. But then the other guys are really all talking nonsense too. I mean, Amoretto's already shown that he likes doing that anyway, and he's just playing the same game again, I think, talking about all these legal cases. And it seems to me that Sir Raderick is equally opaque. They're all, it's a really funny scene in that it's nothing but jargon, I think.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's room for overlapping of people just spewing these words out at times, and actually how, or also what's happening in terms of movement. Are they chasing each other with their text? Is there a visual dynamic that could be going with this as well? That we're not wholly getting it, because it's like, nah, get away from me, he's speaking Latin at me, because I'm still haunted with these needy Latinists, I think is a lovely line. Eric?
I was gonna say the bit about I can't find it right now. Oh wait, here we go. Where like the he's wont to piss whole clouds of rain into the earth, vast gaping urinal, and then sort of empties by calidity and all that stuff. Just made me think, what on earth? Why are you insulting the man? But anyway, just kind of, I like how basically this is scatological humor, but delivered through a very sort of poetic style.
Yes, Liza.
Yeah, and further to those lines, I quite liked the reference to Apollo, Phoebus, as the one-eyed subsizer of the sky. At a university, a scholar would have a sizer to be, who was a scholarship kid, to be who earned their way through being a servant. But they'd also have a subsizer whose job it was to do the really bad jobs like empty the chamber pot. So I quite like the idea of Apollo as a guy who empties a chamber pot.
Rachael.
I think you have a similar joke with that Capricornus in the Pisces line. By talking, because the astrological signs are supposed to all rule certain parts of the body. And it's just made into like a bladder and then a chamberlain. And I wonder if it's like the chamber, it's a play on chamber pot and all that.
Yeah, Pisces seems to be a very appropriate sign to be talking about any kind of fluid moving.
Yeah, I mean, we say Pisces. Who knows whether at the time they might have said Pisces.
Yes. Lynsey, were you waving?
Yes, I just wanted to put my hand up to say I put this in the chat, but despite the fact that I was here last night, I literally was like, what on earth is going on here? Who is talking to whom? Where is everybody standing? What's going on? And it's so hard for me to visualize this on stage. Not just because the text is low on things like entrances, exits, and stage directions, but just the general flow of the text doesn't seem to be that of what you might call a normal kind of conversation. So I was just really, and then I was remembering, oh yes, that's right. Last night we were all trying to just work out what's the game that's going on in here. So just quite bewildering though.
Yeah, it does feel like something that the physicality of who is talking to who is really important to how it flows. Lois.
Yeah, we got the master plan explained to us. The trouble is it was a rather stupid master plan anyway. I mean, they seem to be carrying it out. And I think we've got a lot more to come because they're still in the flattery stage. I mean, at least most of the stuff I've been saying comes from Virgil's eclogues, at least the bits that I could recognize. And I think a bit of either Virgil or Horace flattering Maecenas for being so good to him and so on. And so I think that's part of all this, you're so wonderful, give us some money. But I think we're going to move on to the next stage where, since they're not getting any money, they're going to turn nasty. There's one Latin phrase that is actually quite useful to know because it turns up a lot, and that's lupus in fabula, which really just means speak of the devil. I mean, you say it when the person you were talking about turns up.
And of course we've got the other thing to remember is that we've got two teams here. Effectively, we've got the talkies and the people who are being targeted, but the people being targeted are also delivering sort of this sort of fighting fire with fire, verbiage with verbiage, so that it becomes something of a wall of words coming out at us, and that lack of physicality is perhaps a bit of a problem. Anyway, let us see whether Lois's prediction that their plan is now going to move into a slightly darker phase. The recorder, having said that the university breaks wind twice a year and lets fly such as these are, Ingenioso turns on the recorder.
So, Master Recorder, you that are one of the devil's fellow commoners, all the sizes and the devil's butteries, sins and perjuries very lavishly. One that art so dear to Lucifer that he never puts you out of commons for non-payment. You that live like a summer upon the sins of the people, whose vocation serves to enlarge the territories of hell. that, but for you, had been no bigger than a pair of stocks or a pillory, you that made a scholar, because you descries your ass's ears. Oh, you that are a plague-stuffed cloak-bag of all iniquity, which the grand serving man of hell will one day truss up behind him and carry to his smoky wardrobe.
What frantic fellow art thou that art possessed with the spirit of malediction? Vile muddy clod of base unhallowed clay, thou slimy, sprited, unkind Saracen, when thou wert born, Dame Nature cost her cough. Forage and time hath made thee a great ox, and now thy grinding jaws devour quite the fodder due to us of heavenly sprite.
Nefasto te posuit die quicunque primum et sacrilega mano produxit arbos in nepotum pernicium opprobriumque pagi.
I pray you, Master Ploydon, of what university was the first lawyer of? None, forsooth, for your law is ruled by reason and not by art. With a great reason indeed that a Ploydonist should be mounted on a trapped palfrey with a round velvet dish on his head to keep warm the broth of his wit. A long gown that makes him look like a cadent armor toga, while those poor Aristotelians walk in a short cloak and a close Venetian hose, hard by the oyster wife. And the silly poet goes muffled in his cloak to escape the counter. Oh, and you, Master Amoretto, that art the chief carpenter of sonnets, a privileged vicar for the lawless marriage of ink and paper. You that are good for nothing but to commend in a set speech the colour and quantity of your mistress's stool. Oh, and swear it, most sweet civet. It's fine when that puppet player Fortune must put such a birch inlaid post in so good a suit and suit such an ass in so good a fortune.
Shall I draw?
Nay, son, keep the peace and hold the peace.
Oh, they do not draw, lest you chance to be pissed your credit.
Lectere sine queos superos, geronta movebo. Fearful Megara with her snaky twin was cursed damn unto thy damned self, and Illyrian tigers in the desert rocks did foster up thy loathed hateful life. Base ignorance the wicked cradle rocked, while barbarism was wont to dandle thee. Some wicked hellhound tutored thy youth, and all the grisly sprites of griping hell with mumming looks have dogged thee since thy birth. See how the spirits do hover o'er thy head, as thick as gnats in summer evening tide. Baleful and ice to prithee stay a while, till with my verses I have racked his soul. Oh, sorry. Is that someone else? Or I'm mildly confused.
No, there's clearly a typo that you were just dancing over. Electo.
Electo.
Yes.
Baleful Electo.
Yeah, sorry.
He's calling on
Just pop it in the chat.
Sorry.
Baleful Electo, prithee stay a while, till with my verses I have racked his soul. And when thy soul departs, a cock may be. No blank at all in hell's great lottery. Shame sit and howl upon thy loathed grave, and howling vomit up in filthy guise the hidden stories of thy villainies.
The devil, my masters. The devil in the likeness of a poet. Away, my masters, away.
And exit Sir Raderick, and presumably the others will be following.
Arma virumque cano, quem fugis demens.
Base dog. It is not the custom in Italy to draw upon every idle cur that barks, and did it stand with my reputation, oh, well, go to. Thank my father for your lives.
Girl, whom I would undertake to bastinade quickly, though there were a musket planted in thy mouth. Are not you the young drover of Living's Academico told me of that haunts steeples fairs? Base worm, must thou needs discharge thy craboon to batter down the wall of learning?
I think I have committed some great sin against my mistress, that I am thus tormented with notable villainies. Bold peasants, I scorn them. I scorn them.
Nay, pray thee, good sweet devil, do not thou part. I like an honest devil that will shew himself in a true hellish smoky hue. How like thy snout is to great Lucifer, such talents had he, such glaring eye, and such a cunning sleight in villainy. Oh, the impudency of this age, and if I take you in my quarters, base slave, I'll hang thee on a crossed rhyme and quarter.
Oh, he is gone. Furor, stay thy fury.
I pray you, gentlemen, give 3 groats for a shilling.
What will you give me for a good old suit of apparel? Habet et musea splenum, et formica sua bilis inest.
Oh, gramercy, good lads, this is our share in happiness, to torment the happy. Let's walk along and laugh at the jest. It's no staying here long, lest Sir Raderick's army of bailiffs and clowns be sent to apprehend us.
Procul hinc, procul ite profani. I'll lash Apollo's self with jerking hand, unless he pawn his wit to buy me land.
And they exit. So, yes, as predicted, they indeed followed the master plan and went full troll. Out the invective came. There's some hard stuff there. Some quite fun stuff. They basically drive them away. It doesn't work. It's a terrible plan. It was doomed. Some nice insults in there. There's some nice selection of things. There's some very rude stuff, openly rude stuff. I sometimes pretend this is a family show, but it clearly isn't, is it? Eric, then Lois.
Is that the first time Phantasma has spoken in English?
No, he has occasionally thrown the odd bit in, but it's not far off actually. Lois.
Yeah, I quite like that line. How like thy snout is to great Lucifer's.
At least it's moderately clean. Rachael.
I guess they must have been reading some older Tudor materials, because after that university fart joke, you have him bring up the devil and saying you're likening it to the devil's common. Somebody says something like that after that line. But yeah, I wonder if they're just throw back to that old Tudor, whatever they're reading that has the devil farting around all day.
It is. It does feel like it's people have sat down and read a bit of John Hayward or other people who've sort of danced around some of this kind of material. There is a bit of a flavour there, isn't there? Other thoughts, Lois?
I mean, I guess they say at the end that since they're so miserable, the only happiness they get is being nasty to happy people, which isn't very satisfactory. But I guess from their point of view, they've done what they intended to do.
Oh, I don't know. It gets me through the day. Eric.
I noticed that Furor is sort of, obviously he's very sort of in the moment and very, expressive, whatever you want to call him. But it's interesting how he gets all the sort of physical bodily fluids. I don't know if that's just me or he has the pissing, bladdering, all vomiting. I don't know. Yeah.
I think there's a fair smattering elsewhere, but maybe that's more of where they're coming from. I don't know. To be fair, I wasn't doing a tally, so.
Maybe it's just that it sticks out more because it's sort of in It's very poetic language, and then suddenly you get like vomiting and all that stuff.
Right. We're going to go to a slightly different game next. So let's see what this throws up, because this is going to start taxing us in our sort of contemporary life, as it were. It's got to throw out lots of names. Lots of names are going to throw out of real people. So we'll see what libel and slander is available here. And see how that text comes out. So Act 4, Scene 3, we have the entrance of Burbage and Kempe, and later, or at some point not defined, we have the appearance of Philomusus and Studioso for the third time in the play.
Now, Will Kemp, if we can entertain these scholars at a low rate, it will be well. They have oftentimes a good conceit in a part.
It is true indeed, honest Dick, but the slaves are somewhat proud, and besides, it is a good sport in a part to see them never speak in their walk, but at the end of the stage, just as though when walking with a fellow we should never speak, but at a stile or gate or a ditch, where a man can go no further. I was once at a comedy in Cambridge, and there I saw a parasite make faces and mouths of all sorts on this fashion.
A little teaching will mend these faults, and it may be besides they will be able to pen a part.
Few of the university men pen plays well. They smell too much of that writer Ovid and that writer Metamorphosis, and talk too much of Proserpina and Jupiter. Why, here's our fellow Shakespeare puts them all down. I am Ben Jonson too. Oh, Ben Jonson is a pestilent fellow. He brought up Horace, giving the poets a pill, but our fellow Shakespeare hath given him a purge that made him bewray his credit.
Oh, it's a shrewd fellow indeed. No wonder these scholars stay so long. They are appointed to be here presently that we might try them. Oh, here they come.
Take heart. Let's our clouded thoughts refine. The sun shines brightest when it gins decline.
Master Philomusus and Master Studioso, God save you.
Master Philomusus and Master Otioso, well met.
The same to you, good Master Burbage. What, Master Kempe, how doth the Emperor of Germany?
God save you, Master Kempe. Welcome, Master Kempe, from dancing the Morris over the Alps.
Well, you merry knaves, you may come to the honour of it one day. Is it not better to make a fool of the world, as I have done, than to be fooled of the world, as you scholars are?
Yeah.
But be merry, my lads. You have happened upon the most excellent vocation in the world for money. They come north and south to bring it to our playhouse. And for honours, who of more report than Dick Burbage and Will Kempe? He is not counted a gentleman that knows not Dick Burbage and Will Kempe. There's not a country wench that can dance Sellingers round, but can talk of Dick Burbage and Will Kempe.
Indeed, Master Kempe, you are very famous, but that is as well for your works in print as your part in Q.
You are at Cambridge still with the size Q, and be lusty, humorous poets you must untruss. I made this my last circuit purposely because I would be judge of your actions.
Master Studioso, I pray you take some part in this book and act in it, that I may say what will fit you best. I think your voice would serve for Hieronymo. Observe how I act it and then imitate me.
Who calls Hieronymo from his naked bed?
Oh, you will do well after a while.
Now for you, Master, Philomusus, methinks you should belong to my tuition, and your face, methinks, would be good for a foolish mayor or a foolish justice of peace. Mark me. For as much as there be two states of a commonwealth, the one of peace, the other of tranquility, two states of war, the one of discord, the other of dissension. Two states of an incorporation, the one of the aldermen, the other of the brethren. Two states of magistrates, the one of governing, the other of bearing rule. Now, as I said even now, for a good thing cannot be said too often. Virtue is the shoeing horn of justice. That is, virtue is the shoeing horn of doing well. That is, virtue is the shoeing horn of doing justly. It behoveth me, and is my part to commend this shoeing horn unto you. I hope this word shoeing horn doth not offend any of you, my worshipful brethren, for you, being the worshipful headsmen of the town, know well what the home meaneth. Now, therefore, I am determined not only to teach, but also to instruct, not only the ignorant, but also the simple, not only what is their duty towards their betters, but also what is their duty towards their superiors. Come, let me see how you can do. Sit down in a chair.
Forasmuch as there be two states of a commonwealth, the one of peace, the other of tranquility.
Well, thou wilt do well in time, if thou wilt be ruled by thy betters, that is, by myself, and such grave alderman of the playhouse as I am.
I like your face and the proportion of your body for Richard III. I pray you, Master Phil, let me see you act a little bit of it.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York, and all the griefs that lowered upon us.
Oh, very well, I assure you. Well, Master Phil and Master Stud, we see what ability you are of. I pray walk with us to our fellows, and we'll agree presently.
We will follow you straight, Master Burbage.
It's good manners to follow us, Master Phil and Master Otioso.
And they presumably exit, leaving the two behind. So I've been to auditions like this. Yeah, there's a lot here that speaks. Oh, I was once at a comedy in Cambridge. Yeah, I've been on that kind of tour. I don't think they're quite saying it, but there was a moment where we were going, these Cambridge lads, can they walk and talk at the same time? That wasn't quite what was being said, but it felt like it. We have lots of things that are quoting. There's the name of Emperor of Germany, which is a name of a play from a few years earlier. May or may not be the one that we have. It may be entirely something separate or a reasonably known part. And we do know that Master Kempe did some long-distance Morris dancing. Not over the Alps, to be fair, picked one of the flattest parts of the country to Morris dance along, because he's not an idiot. But that is a nice thing. And then we have these opening lines of reasonably well-known bits of text, which the text we have just sort of has etc. And we can take those further, because we've got a bit of Spanish tragedy and some other stuff. Lois, you're muted at the moment.
Yeah, Kempe, I think, had also been on the European continent, so he'd been touring. There's another play that he'll probably get to, I don't know when, The Travels of Three English Brothers, where somebody meets him, in another country. Yes. I suppose I'm wondering a bit what happened. Oh, I see. I was wondering exactly how they would have done this, in fact, whether the actor that is the professional actor, would have done the whole speech, and whether the audition person would have done the whole speech as well, which seems kind of boring, but of course it could have been very funny if either it was comically inept, or if Burbage were to keep either, reacting in various amusing ways to it. It seems a bit long-winded, especially the comic justice speech, which obviously makes its point quite early, that the guy is saying the same thing twice.
Yeah, there's an element of a little bit of working on that is an option, and the play just mentioned is all these plays that actually we're just mentioning now. We haven't done them yet, but they're coming soon. Liza.
I have a question for Lois, or for anyone else who knows this, which is, they talk about Kempe being as well known for his works in print as his parts in Q, and did Kempe publish anything besides the 9 Days Wonder? Did he publish other stuff?
Not that I know of, but I think that was pretty popular.
And yeah, there may indeed, we can infer that it's not unreasonable to suggest that he wrote other stuff that we either don't know what it was, or it doesn't survive, at all.
Do we know who wrote the play Alphonsus, Emperor of Germany? Might Kempe have had a hand in writing it? Armin was a playwright.
I don't recall off the top of my head a name attached to it. I think it's unknown. But it might. Sorry.
It's been attributed to, I think, even to Chapman. I mean, to some very unlikely people.
Yeah.
But I think it's basically anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah. So either he's very associated with a part, which we'll find out when we read it, or it's maybe he is. Maybe he did have a hand in some of it. Other thoughts on this? It's like we've brought the actors in to do a workshop. And this is how it goes, and yeah, there's some really interesting. It does feel very modern. I was just going to say, Lynsey.
Well, it did kind of make me laugh as I was reading it that Kempe says, "Oh, you've chosen a great profession because you wouldn't believe how much money people bring into the playhouse." I was like, "No, I really wouldn't."
Well, when you're at the top of the tree, Lois, then Eric.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, they were making money. I mean, it was a new profession, really, professional acting, and people were astonished at how much money they're making. I mean, it's going to come up in a minute anyway in the play, but that's one of the things writers were very bitter about, because of course actors got paid every time they put on a play, whereas when you wrote a play, as was being explained, I think last time, you got a flat fee for giving your play to the printer, and that was it. So they had every reason to be annoyed at writers about how much more actors were making out of their plays than they were.
Yes, because a playwright will get paid for the bit of the play, or the play if they write the whole thing. And a little later on, I think you get one of the performances. If the play lasts more than one performance, I think it's the third or fourth. It's a little later on. I think it happens. Yeah. Though maybe not universally, that you might get a bit of a additional fee, but that's pretty much it. Eric, I think you were waving.
I was going to mention that this scene just reminded me a bit of the sort of, I think we mentioned Blackadder yesterday again, but it's got so much from, like, that looks really, really similar from, the sort of actors coming in to teach, I think, King George or something, who was being played by Hugh Laurie.
Yes, the approved stance and the sort of rolling whoa before you start the speech.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure Furor has a lot of those, but and Burbage and Kempe.
Yeah, I can see that for the Geronimo bit. Anyway, we are halfway through the scene. We have Philomusus and Studioso have been left alone to continue. So the Kempe and Burbage, expecting to be followed, exit.
And must the basest trade yield us relief? Must we be practised to those leaden spouts that not do vent but what they do receive? Some fatal fire hath scorched our fortune's wing, and still we fall as we do upward spring. As we strive upward to the vaulted sky, we fall and feel our hateful destiny.
Wonder it is, sweet friend, thy pleading breath, so like the sweet blast of the southwest wind, melts not those rocks of ice, those mounts of woe, congealed in frozen hearts of men below.
I think this is your speech.
The next bit.
What?
Yeah, run with it. Let's see if that works.
What?
Yep.
What? Oh, okay. Wonder.
Yeah, we've got some questions as to who's supposed to be saying what. So to run with the rest of that speech.
Wonder as well thou mayst why, mongst the waves, mongst the tempestuous surges of the sea, the waiting merchant can no pity crave. What cares the wind and weather for their pains? One strikes the sail, another turns the same. He slacks the main, another takes the oar. Another laboureth and taketh pain to pump the sea into the sea again. Still they take pains, still the loud winds do blow, till these ships prouder mast be laid below. Fond world that ne'er thinks on that aged man, that Ariostoes, old swift-paced man, whose name is Time, who never lends to run, loaden with bundles of decayed names, the which in Lethe's lake he doth entomb, save only those which swan-like scholars take, and do deliver from that greedy lake. Inglorious may they live, inglorious die, that suffer learning live in misery.
What care they what fame their ashes have, when once they're cooped up in silent grave?
If for fair fame they hope not when they die, yet let them fear graves staining infamy.
Their spendthrift airs will all those firebrands quench, swaggering full moistly on a tavern's bench.
No shamed sire for all his glossing hair must long be talked of in the empty air.
Believe me, thou that art my second self, my vexed soul is not disquieted for that I miss this gaudy painted state whereat my fortunes fairly aimed of late. For what am I, the meanest of many moe that earning profit are repaid with woe? But this it is that doth my soul torment, to think so many active, able wits that might contend with proudest birds of Poe sits now immured within their private cells, drinking along lank, watching candles smoke, spending the marrow of their flowering age in fruitless poring on some worm-eaten leaf, when their deserts shall seem of due to claim a cheerful crop of fruitful swelling sheaf. Cockle their harvest is, and weeds their grain, contempt their portion, their possession pain.
Scholars must frame to live at a low sail.
Ill sailing where there blows no happy gale.
Our ship is ruined, all her tackling rent,
and all her gaudy furniture is spent.
Tears be the waves whereon her ruins bide,
and sighs the winds that wastes her broken side.
Mischief the pilot is the ship to steer,
and woe the passenger this ship doth bear.
Come, Philomusus, let us break this chat.
And break my heart, oh, would I could break that.
Let's learn to act that tragic part we have.
Would I were silent actor in my grave.
End of act. Yeah, they're not happy bunnies, are they? Once again, they have a scene where they just go, "Isn't life terrible?"
I like to think that that Studioso, when he says, "Come, Philomusus, let us break this chat," like he wants them to stop speaking in rhymed verse, and it's sort of like that scene in The Princess Bride where it's like, "No more rhymes, I mean it. Anybody want a peanut?"
Yeah, I'd say it just seems to be this is the third time that we've effectively got the same scene in the play. I mean, they're presumably quite good at it, so that sort of that sort of works. Thoughts in the room? Any additional thoughts on Philomusus and Studioso here before we dive into Act 5 with abandon? No retreat. No retreat. Okay. Act 5, Scene 1. For reasons that will become clear, Philomusus and Studioso become fiddlers with their consort. Jack Fiddler will be appearing at some point.
And tune, fellow fiddlers. Studioso and I are ready.
And tuning occurs.
There fell good Orpheus, that would rather be king of a molehill than a Kaiser's slave. Better it is mongst fiddlers to be chief than at a player's trencher beg relief. But is't not strange these mimic apes should prize unhappy scholars at a hireling rate? Vile world, that lifts them up to high degree and treads us down in groveling misery. England affords those glorious vagabonds that carried erst their fardels on their backs, coursers to ride on through the gazing streets, stooping it in their glaring satin suits, and pages to attend their masterships with mouthing words that better wits have framed. They purchase lands, and now esquires are named.
Whate'er they seem, being even at the best, they are but sporting fortune's scornful jest.
So merry fortune is wont from rags to take a ragged groom, and him a gallant make.
The world and fortune hath played on us too long.
Now to the world we must fiddle a song.
Our life is a plain song, with cunning penned, whose highest pitch in lowest bass doth end. But see, our fellows unto play are bent. If not our minds, let's tune our instruments.
Let's in a private song our cunning try, before we sing to stranger company.
How can he sing whose voice is hoarse with care? How can he play whose heartstrings broken are? How can he keep his rest that ne'er found rest? How can he keep his time whom time ne'er blessed? Only he can in sorrow bear a part, with untaught hand and with untuned heart. Fond arts, farewell, that swallowed half my youth. Adieu, vain muses, that have wrought my ruth. Repent, fond sir, that train'st thy hapless son in learning's lore, since bounteous alms are done. Cease, cease, harsh tongue, untuned music, rest. Entomb thy sorrows in thy hollow breast.
Thanks, Phil, for thy pleasant song. Oh, had this world a touch of juster grief, hard rocks would weep for want of our relief.
The cold of woe hath quite untuned my voice, and made it too harsh for listening ear. Time was in time of my young fortune's spring. I was a gamesome boy, and learnt to sing. But say, fellow musicians, you know best whither we go. At what door must we imperiously beg?
Here dwells Sir Roderick and his son. It may be now at this good time of New Year he will be liberal. Let us stand near and draw.
draw call'st thou it? Indeed, it is the most desperate kind of service that ever I had ventured on.
Yes, so they've gone from their master class straight to this. It's an interesting thing going on here, Liza.
I'm a little confused as to their motivation here, because they talk about how players used to be vagabonds, but now they're rich and they have nice clothes and they ride horses and they buy lands and they get titles, and it's like, so why wouldn't you take the job?
Are you looking for logic, Liza? Lois.
Well, they say at the beginning, don't they? What is it? Better it is amongst fiddlers to be chief than at a player's trencher beg relief. So I guess one of the things the actors said and other people have said is that scholars are too proud. And I think that's part of it. They don't actually like taking orders from anybody. They feel insulted at somebody telling them how to act, and they're happier with this bunch of fiddlers where I guess they're all just doing their own thing.
Yeah, it's either that or the actors were lying and they just said, we'll don't call us. That might have been part of that. And but following on the pride thing, Burbage and Kempe make it very clear, you follow us.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, they want to be the big fish in the little pool rather than anything else. Eric, then Rachael.
I was going to say this scene just made me think of Mother Bombay, where you've got like the random fiddlers turning up with complaining about the lack of shoes and stuff. It just sort of made me think that they're going to start making as much noise as possible under Sir Raderick's window, just to sort of, pick him up and annoy him, which is even more, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the A plot and the B plot, like there's two different plots are meeting each other. It's like the characters are all coming together to be on stage at the same time, because that won't cause any problems with the doubling, which already doesn't work. Rachael.
We've talked about the sketchiness of this before, and I wonder if it's because it's supposed to be parodies of scenes from other things. That's also been said before, but the line that Lois said about better it is amongst fiddlers to be chief than at a player's trencher beg relief. That's totally like Paradise Lost. He's acting like this is it's like that. And I wonder if that's supposed to be the, just part of the joke of that it's these students who are quoting this stuff while they're out of a job playing fiddle at a bar or something.
Lois.
Yeah, they can't be quoting Paradise Lost, and I don't think Paradise Lost would be quoting them, although it's not impossible because Milton went to Cambridge too, but a bit later than this. But I think it's more the idea. I think one could probably find lots of examples in Latin of people saying, I would, rather be the king of, of a tiny island than some nobody in a princely court or something like that. It's kind of standard view in a way of terribly ambitious people.
Right, let us move on as we get some more page business. I don't know whether this is happening. I think they are coming out to the people who are there, or maybe there's exits going on. Not quite sure who's on at the moment, apart from the 2 pages for Act 5, Scene 2.
My master bids me tell you that he is but newly fallen asleep, and you, forsooth, base slaves, must come and disquiet him. What? Never a basket of capons? Mass, and if he comes, he'll commit you all. Oh, no, sorry, that was your hero line.
I was a bit confused there.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead and say it. Show them how it should be done.
There are 2 pages available. Let's start the scene again. If we can always edit this out and pretend it never happened.
My master bids me tell you that he is but newly fallen asleep, and you, forsooth, base slaves, must come and disquiet him. What, never a basket of capons? Mass, and if he comes, he'll commit you all.
Sirrah Jack, shall you and I play Sir Roderick and Amoretto and reward these fiddlers? I'll play my master Amoretto and give them as much as he useth.
And I, my old master Sir Roderick. Fiddlers, play, I'll reward you, faith I will.
Good faith, this pleaseth my sweet mistress admirably. Cannot you play twitty-twatty fool, or to be at her, to be at her?
Have you never a song of Master Dowland's making?
Or hos ego versiculus feci, etc. Pox on it. My master Amoretto useth it very often. I've forgotten the verse.
Sirrah Amoretto, here are a couple of fellows brought before me, and I know not how to decide the cause. Look in my Christmas book, which of them brought me a present?
On New Year's Day, Goodman Fool brought you a present, but Goodman Clown brought you none.
Then the right is on Goodman Fool's side.
My mistress is so sweet that all the physicians in town cannot make her stink. She never goes to the stool. Oh, she is a most sweet little monkey. Please, your worship, good father, yonder some would speak with you.
What, have they brought me anything? If they have not, say I, take physic. For as much fiddlers as I am of the piece, I must needs love all weapons and instruments that are for the piece, among which I account your fiddles, because they can neither bite nor scratch. Marry, now, finding your fiddles to jar, and knowing that jarring is a cause of breaking the peace, I am, by the virtue of my office and place, to commit your quarrelling fiddles to close prisonment in their cases. What?
They call within.
What ho, Richard, Jack?
Oh, the fool within mars our play without. Fiddlers, set it on my head. I used to size my music or go on the score for it. I'll pay it at the quarter's end.
Farewell, good Pan. Sweet Ismamus, adieu. Don Orpheus, 1,000 times farewell.
You swore you would pay us for our music.
For that, I'll give Master Recorder's law, and that is this. There is a double oath, a formal oath, and a material oath. A material oath cannot be broken. The formal oath may be broken. I swore formally. Farewell, fiddlers.
Farewell, good wags, whose wits praiseworth I deem. Though somewhat waggish, so we all have been.
Faith, fellow fiddlers, here's no silver found in this place. No, not so much as the usual Christmas entertainment of musicians, a black lack of bear, and a Christmas pie.
And they walk aside from their fellow, presumably musicians.
Where'er we in the wide world playing be, misfortune bears a part and mars our melody. Impossible to please with music's strain, our heartstrings broke will ne'er be tuned again.
Then let us leave this baser fiddling trade, for though our purse should mend, our credit fades.
Full glad I am to see thy mind's free course declining from this trencher-waiting trade. Well may I now disclose in plainer guise what erst I meant to work in secret wise. My busy conscience checked my guilty soul for seeking maintenance by base vassalage, and then suggested to my searching thought a shepherd's poor, secure, contented life, on which since then I doted every hour, and meant this same hour in sadder plight to have stolen from thee in secrecy of night.
Dear friend, thou seemst to wrong my soul too much. thinking that Studioso would account that fortune sour, which thou accomst sweet, nor any life to me can sweeter be than happy swains in plain of Arcady.
Why, then let's both go spend our little store in the provision of due furniture, a shepherd's hook, a tar box, and a scrip, and haste unto those sheep-adorned hills, where, if not bless our fortunes, we may bless our wills.
True mirth we may enjoy in thatched stall, nor hoping higher rise, nor fearing lower fall.
We'll therefore discharge these fiddlers. Fellow musicians, we are sorry that it hath been your ill hap to have had us in your company that are nothing but screech owls and night ravens, able to mar the purest melody, and besides our company is so ominous that where we are, thence liberality is packing. Our resolution is therefore to wish you well and to bid you farewell. Come, Studioso, let us haste away, returning ne'er to this accursed place.
And they abandon the life of musicians to become shepherds and play with their playful sheep. So pastoral fantasy there. So it's quite a complicated little bit of business with the pages, because the pages are sort of pretending to be their masters, and there's again potentially a lot of movement going in as they're sort of swapping who's being the interlocutor at different points, and then their master actually calls him off stage, and they go, I particularly like the request to play Twitty Twatty Fool. I think that's a song I love to hear.
Angela could tell us if it's extant.
Yes. There's some. I like the close prisonment in their cases as well for the fiddlers. There's some really nice bits in there. I have to say that this last sequence has really come alive for me. I've liked a lot of what we've been running into here. There's really nice potential for this that speaks. Yeah, busking ex-students. This is how they're trying to earn a living, and they decide let's go off and become shepherds. Great plan. I can't see any problem with that. Rachael.
In this little music joke, the go on the score for it, and he pay it at the quarter's end. I know for the quarter, they're probably talking about a quarter note. In the score, they're talking about the music. But what does I use to size my music? What does that portion of it mean?
Lois.
Actually, I think in this case, the quarter is the legal term at the end of which you pay, and going on the score is actually going on credit. In other words, in fact, I think they used to score it on a slate or something, what you owed them.
You're right that it means that, but it's also a pun. That the score means both record of credit and printed music, and I don't know whether they use the term quarter note at this time or whether it's just called a crotchet, but I'm pretty sure a quarter must be a term of music or dance. If it doesn't mean quarter note, it will mean something to do with music or dance.
So it's playing two things at the same time.
It's a pun.
Quite nice.
It's a pun. It's
doing very nicely.
I think size my music. Assuming that that's correct, that to be a sizer. Do you think it's to do with being a sizer, Lois? With being with basically.
Yeah, let me see that again. What's the context of this?
Amoretto's page said he would pay for the music, and then now he's basically saying he's not going to. Fiddlers, set it on my head, that is, put it on my tab. I use to size my music or go on the score for it.
I'll pay it at the quarter's end, so I'll pay later. So yeah. I think it's leaning more heavily on the credit side of things than the music side at that point.
Yeah, but to size my music.
Yeah. No, I can't. I mean, I just wonder if it's vaguely related to the assizes, because the quarter, I don't know, in the sort of legal sense, but
That's right. The assizes took place every quarter, didn't they?
Yeah.
But
So maybe
how that flows.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, we may be digging too much, but it's good to flag up and want to dig in later. Rachael.
No, I was going to say, what is an assize? And I know it's a musical puns, but they're talking about credit. But maybe the musical pun, if it's not for a quarter note, maybe it's referring to like the in quarter time or something like that.
Or I was thinking it might be an anglicization of quatuor or quartet.
What is an assize, though, that you guys were just talking about?
Lois, you're up.
well, this is probably more Helen's thing than mine. I mean, it's a court hearing of some sort. I mean, I think the judges are JPs. I think the justices of the peace in the county made their rounds. There were assizes and the court. I mean, I'm not terribly well up on this, but I know that there were legal things. Obviously, a lot of stuff happened in London, but there were also things that kind of toured around the country, or that happened in local places. And I think there were regular times for this. I mean, almost everything was measured by legal terms, the various terms in London, Michaelmas and Trinity and so on. It's the same in the universities. The terms were all kind of linked to these calendar dates. But I don't know. I mean, I just take it that given that both Amoretto and his father talk so much in legal language, that some sort of reference to legal terms would fit here.
Helen has given us info from the ether. Quarter sessions are local magistrates. The assizes were the London courts come to town. So. Anyway, let's not get too deviled in the detail. Let's any other thoughts about the flow of this scene and the histrionics? I'm liking. They just head for the deep end every time. If they're not immediate successes, then it's just despair. Let's give up everything. We tried nothing, and we're immediately quitting. They've got no business plan at all. These people, Lois.
Yeah, I guess this is, I don't know if it's relevant or not, but when I started teaching in the 60s, I did actually get students who got fed up with university life and said they were going to go off and do sheep farming in Wales. So, I mean, this is in some ways quite relevant.
Yeah. I think there's a stand-up comedian. I can't remember the name. Once was talking about he was became a shepherd and said it's one of the most stressful occupations you can have because you're always worrying about where the hell the sheep are. And it's no iddle. Anyway, we have a very short scene. I don't know if it flows into the next one. It may indeed. Act 5, Scene 3. Enter Ingenioso and Academico.
Who have we there? Ingenioso and Academico.
Didn't we have the previous?
With Faith Academico, it's the fear of that fellow, I believe.
Buggeration, sorry.
Previous scene. It's a very short scene. It's easily done.
Oh, sorry. Faith Academico is the fear of that fellow. I mean, the sign of the sergeant's head that makes me to be so hasty to be gone. To be brief, Academico ripped her out for me to apprehend me for my plays. And I am bound for the life of dogs. Furor and Phantasma comes after me, removing the camp as fast as they can. Farewell, mia sequid vota valabunt.
Faith Ingenioso, I think the university is a melancholic life. But there a good fellow cannot sit 2 hours in his chamber, but he shall be troubled with the bill of a draper or a vintner. But the point is, I know not how to better myself, and so I am fain to take it.
We're going straight into Act 5, Scene 4, and I don't know whether they're still on stage or they're joined by Philomusus, Studioso, Furor, and Phantasma.
Who have we there? Ingenioso and Academico.
The very same. Who are those? Furor and Phantasma.
And Furor takes a louse off his sleeve.
And art thou there, 6-footed Mercury?
Our rhymes become such creepers nowadays. Presumptuous louse that doth good manners lack, daring to creep upon poet Furor's back. Multum refert quibuscum vexeris, non videmus manticae quod intergo est.
What? Furor and Phantasma, too, are old college fellows. Let us encounter them all.
God save you.
Save you all.
Ingenioso, Academico, Furor, Phantasma, God save you all.
What? Ingenioso. Academico, Furor. Phantasma. How do you, brave lads?
What are our dear friends Philomusus and Studioso?
What of our old friends, Phil and Stewed?
What, my supernatural friends?
What, my good, fantastical friends?
What news with you in this quarter of the city?
We have run through many trades, yet thrive by none. Poor in content and only rich in moan. A shepherd's life thou know'st I wont to admire, turning a Cambridge apple by the fire. To live in humble dale we now are bent, spending our days in fearless merriment.
We'll teach each tree, even of the hardest kind, to keep our woeful name within their rind. We'll watch our flock, and yet we'll sleep withal. We'll tune our sorrows to the water's fall. The woods and rocks with our shrill songs will bless. Let them prove kind, since men prove pitiless. But say, whether are you and your company jogging? It seems by your apparel you are about to wander.
We are fully bent to the lords and misrule in the world's wide hall. Our voyage is to the Isle of Dogs, there where the blatant beast doth rule and reign, renting the credit of whom it please. Where serpents' tongues the penmen are to write, where cats do wail by day, dogs bark by night. There shall in gored venom be my ink, my pen a sharper quill of porcupine, my stained paper this sin-loaden earth. There where I write in lying shall never die, our fearing lordings crying villainy.
A gentle wit thou hadst, nor is it blame to turn so tart, for time hath wronged the same.
And well thou dost from this fond earth to flit, where most men's pens are hired parasites.
Go happily, I wish thee store of gall, sharply to wound the guilty world withal.
But say, what shall become of Furor and Phantasma?
These my companions still with me must wend.
Fury and fancy on good wits attend.
When I arrive within the Isle of Dogs, Don Phoebus, I will make thee kiss the pump. Thy one-eyed prize in every draper's stall, yet never thinks on poet Furor's need. Furor is lousy, great Furor lousy is. I'll make thee run this lousy case, I wis. And thou, my sluttish laundress Cynthia, ne'er thinks on Furor's linen, Furor's shirt. Thou and thy squirting boy Endymion lies slavering still upon a lawless couch. Furor will have thee carted through the dirt, that makest great poet Furor want his shirt.
Is not here a true dog that dare bark so loudly at the moon?
Exclaiming want and needy care and cark would make the mildest sprite to bite and bark.
Anes timidi vehementus latrant. There are certain birds in the Isle of Dogs called in our English tongue men of worship. Certain briars, as the Indians call them, as we say, certain lawyers. Certain great lumps of earth, as the Arabians call them. Certain grocers, as we term them. Quos ego sed motus praestat componere fluctus.
We three into the snarling hand haste, and there our vexed breath in snarling waste.
We will be gone unto the downs of Kent. Sure footing we shall find in humble dale. Our fleecy flock we'll learn to watch and ward in July's heat and cold of January. We'll chant our woes upon an oaten reed, whilst bleating flock upon their supper feed.
So shall we shun the company of men that grows more hateful as the world grows old? We'll teach the murmuring brooks in tears to flow, and steepy rock to wail our passed woe.
Adieu, you gentle spirits, long adieu. Your wits I love and your ill fortunes rue. I'll haste me to my Cambridge cell again. My fortunes cannot wax, but they may wane.
Adieu, good shepherds, happy may you line, and if you hereafter in some secret shade, you shall recount poor scholars' miseries, vouchsafe to mention with tear-swelling eyes Ingenioso's thwarting destinies. Thou still happy Academico, that may still rest upon the muses' bed, enjoying their quiet slumbering. When thou repay rest unto thy granter's stream, wonder at thine own bliss, pity our case, that still do tread ill fortune's endless maze. Wish them that are preferments almoners, to cherish gentle wits in their green lap bud. For had not Cambridge been to me unkind, I had not turned to guile a milky mind.
I wish thee of good hap a plenteous store. Thy wit deserves no less, my love can wish no more. Farewell, farewell, good Academico. Never mayst thou taste of our forepassed woe. We wish thy fortunes may attain their due. Furor and you, Phantasma, both adieu.
Farewell, farewell, farewell. Oh, long farewell. The rest my tongue conceals, let sorrow tell.
Et longum vale inquit iola.
Farewell, my masters. Fure's a musty dog, nor can with a smooth glozing farewell cog. Naught can great Furor do but bark and howl and snarl and grin and lour and lug the world like a great swine by his long lean card lugs. Farewell, musty, dusty, rusty, fusty London. Thou art not worthy of great Furor's wit, that cheatest virtue of her due desert, and sufferest great Apollo's son to want.
Nay, stay a while and help me to content. So many gentle wits attention who ken the laws of every comic stage, and wonder that our scene ends discontent. Ye airy wits subtle, since that few scholars' fortunes are content, wonder not if our scene ends discontent. When that our fortunes reach their due content, then shall our scene end in merriment, in her merriment.
Perhaps some happy wit with feeling hand hereafter may record the pastoral of the two scholars of Parnassus hill, and then our scene may end and have content.
Meantime, if there be any spiteful ghost, smiles to see poor scholar's misery, cold is his charity, his wit too dull, we scorn his censure, he is a jeering gull. But whatsoever refined spites there be that deeply groan at our calamity, whose breath is turned to sighs, whose eyes are wet, to see bright hearts bent to their latest set, whence never they again their head shall rear, to bless our art disgracing hemisphere. Let them give all us a plaudite.
Let them plaudite.
Let them.
And none but them.
And none but them.
None but them.
Give us a plaudite. I'm pretty sure they're all meant to say that together.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think it
or-
must have been
yeah.
printed thusly.
Yeah, or that it could be to to be sung as well. I wonder if they do a little harmonising.
It's possible, but can't you see the sort of, the Harvard Lampoon or Cambridge Footlights type of ending saying, let them and none but them, everyone's give us a plaudite, and that's your applause cue line. Possibly the Fiddlers are back for some play-out music. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's farewell to all these old friends who at the end it's basically, hi, oh my God, it's you, oh my, it's you, and then farewell. I mean, it's hardly the Grey Havens, is it? But we do get a sort of resolution. It's we've got Philomusus Studioso, they're off to tend their playful sheep. Academico's going back to Cambridge. Furor's doing some stuff. Lois.
Yeah. No, it goes allegorical at that point. I mean, Ingenioso's name means wit, and they say, wit is accompanied with fury and fancy. That's what Phantasma is. So these are the. It suddenly turns into an allegory, really. I mean, he's like one of those humanum genus types who goes around with his particular qualities.
That wasn't why I was getting at all. So
it's that one line that spells it out, though.
So, which one? Point it out to me, for I am a bear of little brain.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It's when Ingenioso comes in. We three. It's when Philomusus asks. Let's see, what page is this? 46 in my version. Philomusus asks, but say, what shall become of Furor and Phantasma? Ingenioso says, these my companions still with me must wend, still meaning always, I think. And then Academico says, fury and fancy on good wits attend. And that really is just spelling out. I mean, Ingenioso is wit, and a writer has to have poetic fury and as well as fancy. So Furor, Phantasma, and Ingenioso, they're the ones still out in the writing for money, basically. Yeah, and they're heading for the Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were tying in all the others, and I was sort of going, no, they were going in different directions. No,
I just think those two. It becomes a little allegory about one of these academic allegories, a bit like in Lingua. Did you read Lingua?
Not yet. It's again, it's a slightly tricky text for us to do.
Yeah, there's a character called Fantasticus or some Phantasmus, I don't know, in that, who represents sort of imagination going wild.
We very briefly discussed yesterday when we were talking about Isle of Dogs. I don't know if we did that on camera or not, but the possible connection with the lost play, and whereas there was feeling a bit thin, but here we do have this whole thing about people being apprehended for plays and Life of Dogs and then Isle of Dogs. So it does feel like there's actually there is quite a pointed reference being made at this point, though of course we could be imagining that. It's always a bit dangerous to speculate.
But Nash certainly did have to get out of town, and they appear to be in London at the end. I mean, this sort of this description of farewell to musty, dusty, whatever London. We hadn't thought of it before, but I suppose they would be in London. Although I thought that the actors had come to Cambridge to recruit, but maybe they're all in London now, because that would explain why Ingenioso's got to get out of there, because I think Nash got out pretty fast.
Yeah, I don't know, hide it back to Lowestoft or something. Other thoughts in the room? Rachael, as Gabe, focusing on what the play is doing and how it's closing the action.
No, I mean, it's kind of ironic because their dad / uncle was a farmer, and they've gone all around. They've gone to school, and now they're back to not farming exactly, but animal husbandry is slightly similar. Animal farming.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're basically just going back to the old. I mean, I don't know if they're going back to their farmer's homestead because I think he basically said, "I'm having to sell up and move on." So actually, they might be just as screwed when they get to wherever they're going. Eric,
I'm thinking that they're gonna end up in a Lily play or something.
there are a couple of moments that feel like they might be referencing Lily and quite, but he hasn't had a name check in as any of the writers. But maybe that's because they liked him. You get the impression that they don't like quite a lot of people. But yeah, so off to Sheep, off to Wright, back to Cambridge. It actually does sort of round off the journey to a degree of they're all settling down to what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. Liza.
It strikes me as a bit like Candide. They, Candide and everyone, they go through all sorts of trials, tribulations, professions, countries, and they just end up as farmers, basically.
Other thoughts? Lynsey?
I mean, I wasn't here for the first session of this text, but is it because it seems so episodic and, like a sketch or a review or whatever, but I mean, would it, for those who've been here for the duration, would it, if you were to lift all the Philomusus and Studioso stuff out and just play it as their story? Because I remember you said, Rob, yesterday something about, and we're now back to these two who are ostensibly the sort of, the main characters of this play. Is that a way of looking at this narratively? Just a thought?
I think you could construct using this end onto a lot of the material that we've had before and construct something that feels like it's got a narrative. I don't think this play is actually, for the most part, interested in that. This is something to hang your hat on. Ingenioso does turn up in other plays as well, and has a bit of a through line. And you could probably construct and put together some of the other stuff that almost fits with other bits and bobs. But the vast majority of this play isn't really interested in that. It feels very sketchy around, whereas the first two did have some thrust. So it's really helpful because it does give us an ending, actually, if we're thinking of doing something with all of the texts. That does give us a narrative to hang our hat on that helps. Eric, I think you're waving.
No, I was just wondering about some of the language, like especially for Furor going like, I will make thee kiss the pump, and then like sluttish laundress Cynthia, and squirting boy and Endymion, and I'm not sure I want to know what that is. I mean, it sounds dirty, but I'm pretty sure it's not, or maybe it is. I don't know. There's a part of me going, maybe I just have a dirty mind.
I'm fairly certain it's quite dirty. Liza.
There's one of the motifs I've seen, at least in this part of the play that I've been here for, is filthy language used about gods. And I don't know. I mean, are the three plays? I'm guessing they probably have different authors or some different authors.
Well, there are ideas that people have about attribution, but there isn't particularly, again, a very firm attribution for anything, and I'm going to suggest we're not going to go into that. I would suggest that there's possibly a mix of stuff going on here, but I wouldn't try and speculate. Lois?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of references to weavers. There was one at the beginning of this one, I think, and there was one in the previous play. And there was a satirist named Weaver who may have had something to do with this. But I think, as you say, we don't really know. I mean, I think it's been suggested that the pilgrimage to Parnassus is a different person. And then people like the Footlights crew got hold of it and decided to really turn it into a review.
Because the first one does feel like it has a narrative and a completeness to it, and then it sort of gets stretched out. And if it's in a university context, of course, you've got people they leave, or they and they do other things. This one feels very different to the last one, whereas I felt there was a bit more connection between the first and the second. But yeah, there's a certain bloat to it because it keeps getting longer each time. Rachael.
I wonder if they. I wonder if there was like they had the Studioso and Philomusus like scenes, and then they just had filler around it because they couldn't really build up the story. Like they, like one of those things where you write the end first so you know where your end point is, and then you just build up the rest of it to get to that destination. If they just were like, this is all we got for those two, so let's just, and everybody else wants to join in on this and have their own part, so why don't we just write them in with all our little in jokes, because everybody loves those little in jokes or something like that.
In terms of mass, it feels like this is more Ingenioso's play than the others. He's holding the strings together and with Academico prodding at Sir Raderick and his crew. So yeah, it feels like there's sort of two very different narrative strands being weaved together here, and that they might come from very different places. So yeah, that feels plausible. So any other thoughts about the ending or stuff that came in before we go to final thoughts of randomness about what we might throw together with this? Because yeah, I now that we've done the ending, it does feel like there is a possible interesting through, and there are interesting possibilities that appeal at this stage. Lynsey, you have been here for a couple of sessions, but otherwise possibly a bit lost. Any final thoughts about playing this, doing stuff with it, and stuff you've liked, stuff you've gone what?
I mean, I've sort of gone what to most of it over yesterday and today, and I think it produces in me that feeling when not that I've been to a circus in a very long time, but this idea that you go to a circus and there's this sort of chaos going on and you're never sure where to look or what you should be paying attention to. And it sort of makes me feel slightly hectic. And that's the effect that this play has had on me. I've just been like, what's happening now? Who's talking? What's going on? So yeah, I think I'd need to think further as to whether or not there would be anything that I could see, any way of doing anything with it that I could see based on my partial involvement.
Greg, any final thoughts from you?
I'm just glad it's over. Sorry. I very rarely have that feeling about a play we do, but Compact, sorry to reference it, but Compact Tancred, all is forgiven.
I know exactly how you feel. When we did the first one, we did the pilgrimage too. We had such fun and we were all buzzing, and we had it does feel like sequelitis, doesn't it? It feels like you don't go to the third film expecting it to be as good as the first, and there is that feeling here. Which we can acknowledge. Liza, any final thoughts from you? You've been here for some of the earlier stuff, though you've missed most of this particular text.
It's true, and I wish I had been here for it. It combines a lot of the things that appeal to my geek nature, which is meta theater. That is, a play that knows it's a play that also has jokes about theater in it. And also lots of in-jokes. And God, I thrive on in-jokes. I want to know both how people saw what was happening at the time and what they found funny about it. So I would have loved to be in the room for more of this. And, if we revisit the Parnassus plays, I will lobby to keep this one in. Even if you don't, even if I get shouted down, I will still lobby.
Rachael, any final thoughts?
I don't know. This I think it would be interesting to look at this last one again after we've read maybe just a workshop of some of where they're name dropping people after we've read more plays, because there's so much that those little sketchy parts, the more that you're read, I think, in this era, the more you can pull from it. But this is definitely different from the other ones, because there was something like a plot in the last one, and then I don't know, the first one was so fun. I don't know, there's something here maybe that I'm not picking up, but it's maybe one sequel too many.
Lois, any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, obviously I enjoy this one because it relates to so much stuff that I'm interested in. And I love lines like churning a Cambridge apple by the fire. I mean, they're just sort of nice little things, as well as vituperation, as well. I don't know, poetic bits, comic bits. I wonder if the best thing would be to cut out Ingenioso and his whole part of the plot, which seems to me where it gets boring with Ingenioso and Furor and Phantasma. I mean, that goes on, and that whole plan to just yell at Sir Raderick, it seems to me pretty unfunny after about the first half minute. But most of the rest of it, I mean, I think the Amoretto Academico thing is pretty funny, and this business of the academic trying to get a living in every sense of the word, and most of Studioso and Philomusus. I mean, they do the same sort of thing at the end of each act, that they act as the chorus, and they just say, "Oh boy, isn't it awful to be a scholar," essentially. But you could cut that down. There's so many good things in it. I mean, it would be a case of making a little anthology of all the bits one likes, and then seeing if one can string them together.
Well, yeah, I mean, or thinking it the other way of just saying, if we treat each scene as a unit of action as a sketch that we workshop, that we don't worry too much about the overall whole. I think Stephen was making this case earlier in the week, that just find out what the game is, find out what the joke is, and actually see, especially with movement, I think a lot of this stuff has got crowded by the fact that we see this big long text on the speech on a page, and of course the audience wouldn't know it's a big long speech until it's over, and that the physicality and the gameplay, I think there's a lot of potential for game, and that brings out my clown training to use this as a springboard for business, to see what comes out of it, but to do it in bits, to explore those bits and not get bogged down in the totality of it, because once we get to this play, which is long, there's so much material to try and deal with. Eric, any final thoughts?
It's weird how those scenes are all over the place. Like, the scene length is not consistent, whereas in the first one it seemed to be more or less the same as far as I remember. And I don't know, I like this one, but although it's kind of chaos, because it's like, what is going on? I do not know the Latin. But yeah, I don't know. There are elements that seem a bit useless, but I'm just curious as to what plays this is talking to, and what has been like influenced by it. What are the influences here? Because obviously we've talked about Isle of Dogs, we've talked about, like, I don't know, all the name-checked poets and playwrights, but it's just sort of, I'm sure there's so many more in there.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that we have done most of the plays that we have that existed prior to this. I mean, there aren't that many left prior to this that we haven't done, but these plays are also feeding off a lot of literature. There's an awful lot of words that you need to expect an audience to know, and it's a big task, even for the amount of back work that we've done to fill that in. I have to say, now that we've come to the end, and now that we've got that end, actually I can see a show. I can see a show between the three that would work really nicely, and there's actually a huge amount of choice as to what that it's almost like the second half might change over the course of a run, because you could swap out scenes and say, well, we can do this bit instead. That would work very nicely. The first play largely uncut or unchanged, and the second play forming the basis, but heavily cut, and then bits and pieces from this one, including the ending. And that would make actually a show that would speak to today, because there's so much about modern education that actually this does land with. Yes, the references are different, but actually it's really, really nice. So it all has a decent shout. Yeah, I'm hopeful. For various reasons, about this one. Any final things anyone wants to throw in at this time? Oh, Eric, a slowly raised hand there.
No, I was going to say that because Lois has mentioned that it's such a good play for academics and stuff. Next time we get invited to an academic conference, we should just do parts of this.
Yeah, I'm sure that time will come. Lois.
Yeah, and I just thought of a good equivalent maybe for all the Latin, which would be, in fact, somebody talking lit crit jargon, especially the most rarefied kind,
Oh yeah, there's lots of analogues. I mean, it's the question of how much of the original that we stick and how much we play and do other things with. Anyway, all that remains is to thank all these wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. This sucks the eggs of my invention.